I chose win daily simply for the fact that I want people to have these small daily victories. When I walk through life and I learn something, I'm happy I learned one thing today. If I can learn two things in a day, and I'll announce it, thank you for teaching me something today. That was a good day. And you got to take these small victories in all different aspects, from defeats, from good things that happen and simple things that happen. Having a good conversation yesterday with the delivery guy who dropped off my food at work. We exchanged numbers and he offered me a free training session.
This is Entrepreneurs the Playbook, where I give you access each week to the world's greatest athletes and executives about their personal and professional playbook and what has made them champions on and off the field. This is the Playbook. This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneur the Playbook, and I am with a brand new author, and I thought I'd get into a deep conversation on writing a book, the frustrations, and also fantasy and gambling. So this is Jason Mezrahi. And Jason, welcome to the Playbook, my friend.
Thanks for having me, brother. Thank you.
Awesome. So you started writing a book.
Yep.
And I always tell people, write a book about your passion, right? And then it's quite easy. How did you get started in writing that book?
So basically it all started by reading a lot of books. And one of the last books I read was from Gary Vee, and he basically talked about social media and how that plays into everything that we were doing today. And I just started saying, I wasn't a Facebook guy, I wasn't an Instagram guy, I'm still not a Snapchat guy, but I decided to put myself out there. Got back on LinkedIn, updated my resume. Never really saw a huge value in LinkedIn when I had a job. But then I contacted you, started introducing myself to a bunch of different people, and as I got on Instagram, I started making all these posts. From the post, you get hit back with all these individuals trying to sell you stuff. I'll get you more followers, I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you. And in between that time, my wife just told me, you should write a book. Out of nowhere, it just came out of left field, and I said, why the hell would I write a book? I'm not a writer. And I kind of just brushed it off. We had like a 30-second conversation about it, and then it went to nowhere. And then about a week later, I'm a person who believes in the universe, and it'll start talking to you once you're kind of on the right path. And another guy hit me up on Instagram and said, did you ever think about writing a book? It could be your calling card. You should write a book about your consulting company. I said, if I wrote a book, I wouldn't write about consulting because my true passion is fantasy sports, and I have a couple great stories that I would probably share. And then I don't even know if I was talking to a bot at that point. I was actually talking to a live person. But I started talking to the guy, and just for the simple fact that my wife said it to me, and I trust her gut, and then it came to me through this random Instagram message, I said, you know what? I'm doing it. And from there on, I just decided to jump right in.
I think that's the most important lesson. And it's hard for me to teach people that when I'm coaching them. These seeds, like, they come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? And it comes from a higher source. It comes from a higher vibration, in my opinion. It comes from a greater awareness. And too many people pass up, quote unquote, their calling because they don't listen to that calling. They don't listen to the seeds of people. Oh my God, you should do this, or in my own head.
Yeah.
Like, and when I feel inspired about it, then I need to take action. Now, we got into the fantasy side of things. What makes you an expert, or why would you write a book in fantasy?
Just because I've been breathing it, living it every single day for the past 6 years. Fantasy sports is something I wake up thinking about, and I go to sleep thinking about. I grew up playing sports all my life. I love competition. I think it's healthy. And fantasy sports was kind of like just calling my name when I first heard about it. You hear the commercials 5-6 years ago, and it was almost meant for me because I played sports all my life. At this age, I stopped playing sports for the most part, except for a couple of softball leagues and things like that to stay competitive. But this combines sports with business and money, so it kind of like put all my passions together. And I've been doing it every day, and I've been pretty successful at it. And my success has come from just being obsessed with it. So I do it every day. I don't take any days off, and I just continuously go out there and grind and grind and grind.
So one of the things I coach about to implement everything, including writing a book or building your brand, is consistency. And it's interesting, you're one of the leading guys in fantasy. You've won fantasy tournaments, you've done it. But it's interesting, every person said, number one, I'm obsessed with it, which means I have focus and attention on it. But two, I do it every day.
Yeah.
And that's what gives the exponential results. You get the subtleties of success, those little nuances. What's one nuance that came out when you started doing it every day that you think the average fantasy person isn't aware of?
There's a lot of losses. When you're doing it every day, you're going to lose a lot. and be able to wake up the next day after you've had a tough beat or you were defeated to get back up and just go through your process again. So a lot of people, once they have a couple mistakes in life, they kind of fall off track, they start doubting themselves, and they change the entire process up. If something was working for you day one, day two, and then you had a couple of bad days, don't just fall off the train. Go back to your process. You can refine your process every day, and that's where I think I've really got, excelled at, is just figure out what your process is, constantly look at the people around you, model yourself after the best, because you can see everybody's lineup, you can see what they're doing, create some networks and some partnerships, where you can consult with other people, so not all the pressure's on you every single day, but just stick to your process. Whatever your process is, if you're in it for the long haul, just constantly refine your process until you make it your own.
What's the name of your book?
Name of my book is Win Daily. Took me a while to come up with the title, to be honest with you.
How did you come up with it?
I waited till the book was done. That's what, from what I read from other writers, that's kind of how they went about the process. And I really like the name simply because it makes sense as far as, daily fantasy sports, but also I want to hit on winning at life. So it kind of combined both in one.
That's excellent. And you have a pretty famous person that wrote your foreword. Mm-hmm. I know you wanted me to do it, but we said, you know what, there's someone better for gambling and fantasy to write it. Who's that?
It's Pete Rose.
How'd you do that?
A little bit by your help, to be honest with you. You gave me the little extra coach and the pat on the back to say, just go ahead and do it. Just try it, man.
You just asked, right?
Just asked, yeah.
Yeah.
But I realized,
what are the two things that I teach? Do you remember?
You teach a lot of things.
But I mean about asking, right? You just, how can I be of service, and do you know anyone that can help me, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It wasn't that hard, was it?
No, it really was. It was easier than I thought it would be. And that's what writing this book has done for me. I never thought I'd be a writer. I never had any true passion to be a writer, to be honest with you. My mom helped me out with my papers in high school and middle school because writing was not my thing. I was good at math and I was good at sports. Writing was not a passion of mine. But what I realized by writing this book, if you really apply yourself to anything you want in life, you can figure it out. There's enough tools out there. It's 2019 now. 100 years ago, you couldn't be in contact with somebody like you unless you had a friend that could introduce you and everything else. Now with social media and just networking in its entirety, you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. Like when we were walking into the event yesterday, I was telling my friend, this city and these networking events are so huge. For people to say that they're lonely or they can't meet somebody or they can't acquire, some networks, they're out there. They're just sitting on their couch most likely watching TV and not doing anything about it.
Yeah, or just sit at the lobby of a hotel like this, right?
Yeah.
Just in one day, you sit in the lobby of a hotel like this in Midtown and just say, hey, how are you? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Watch how much business that you can do, especially in New York or LA, or big cities. I just find it amazing. In fact, last night, Ryan Leslie, famous entertainer, whatever, he's like, I give everybody my cell phone, right? And then, I met another guy who, through necessity, he, basically lost his phone and created a cloud-based service so that you could, find all your content. Like there's all these people that just take action. Now, the biggest challenge that you've had with your book so far, what is it?
The biggest challenge right now is just...
And how can I help?
One of the biggest challenges is basically finding help in regards to just, because I've never stepped into this realm before. So just aligning myself with people who can help has been a challenge. And my recent challenge that I've been asking everybody to help is the cover. I really have been struggling to figure out what correlates perfectly with daily fantasy sports and winning at life. So I have all these different images in my head, and I'm really struggling with the fact of what am I putting on this cover. I know we've talked about it before, and
my advice is still the same, right? There's too much noise right now.
Yeah.
So for me, I saw 5 different options, and you'd ask me and other people, and it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah.
And I use names of companies as an example. Okay. So put your mindset back into starting Google, which was a search optimization company. Mm-hmm. Like, in what world would you and I sit down and we started that company together and we look at the name Google?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be this big thing.
Right, and say the name becomes what we give meaning to what we see.
Yep.
So pick one. I mean, I know this might sound like simple advice, because I don't think it matters. I think it's the book that makes the cover,
For sure.
right? And the book, the content, the energy, the frequency of that book makes the cover. And I would, if I were you, stop wasting energy, time, and emotion on asking one more person. I looked at those, and if that book is good, all of them are fine. Yeah, all of them will work. And and if you're that confused and then just put in block letters, like I did on Connected to Goodness. I changed my cover when it became popular, the book, to just Connected to Goodness. It's just words in my favorite colors.
Yeah.
Right? And I like the cover. I've never had a negative one going, why'd you choose this cover?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, and I think that's even a bigger lesson in life, is that, we wear ourselves out over analyzing things. And that's one of the things I've noticed from coaching you, right? Because you have this obsessive perfectionist, that made you great at daily fantasy, it also can hurt you, because you can also, take too much energy, time, and emotion on things that don't mean anything, instead of, I want to focus in on what's going to make the cover great, which is the book.
Yep.
I'm going to, all of these different things. Getting started, right? I've coached you through some of the back end, but you had a good start to it, and I like that. Most people never get started. What do you think it is inside of you that said, all right, I've never written a book, I'm not a good writer, I barely passed through school, my mom had to help me, which is, I don't have the patience to write a book, and I've written 8, right? My 9th one's coming out. And because I learned what I do and how with technology can I create a book from that, right? So I outline, which is easy for me, I'm organized, but I speak my books, and then they transcribe onto paper, and then I read them and edit them. How did you get started?
Getting started, it was just speaking my story. The first.
Did you record it?
The first thing I did was I transcribed my story to a professional. So I knew going into it, I was gonna need some help just to get the ball rolling, because procrastination can kill anybody. And if you got a large task like writing a book, and you're not a writer, and you try to sit down and do it yourself, you'll probably procrastinate so much that you never really get started, like you said. So I say, you know what? In order for this to work, I'm gonna seek help. I'm gonna need help, and I just need to get going on that. And I chose to interview a couple different players in the field, and I just went with one that my gut said, get started with. And I always knew that if I had a foundation set with the first team I sat down with, along the lines, I can always add an editor. I can add somebody else. I can speak to you about it. I can pass it off to a couple friends, and then I can get some information back to me, like what's working and what's not working. And I can also find my style. And once I had like the foundation there, I was able to go back in and edit a chapter here, edit a chapter there. When I felt like I was in the mood to write, I can go back in and really, complete a full story or complete a full chapter. The stories are in my head. Luckily for me, I wasn't trying to reinvent the story. I had the story.
It's not a novel that you're creating out of ether. I don't know how, like, J.K. Rowling's, when you watch
Even
Harry
movies,
Potter, Harry Potter, you're like, where'd that come from? Well, I think it comes through her. One of the fears that people have about writing a book as well is they have professions, and you have a profession, and so we keep it hidden that we're writing a book. For me, I did. I use people around me at my own office to help me with my book. In fact, the guy who is like the chief editor, the contributor, was Harrison Leibowitz, who was my general counsel on my first book. Nice. Right? Because he literally. But why do you think it is that people, they're afraid to tell people they're writing a book?
I think in one sense, maybe they don't think they're going to finish it, so they don't want to put themselves out there and then have to hold themselves accountable.
Was that a fear of yours?
No, I'm not really a fearful person when it comes to that kind of stuff. When I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I see.
Now, I'll be honest, though, a couple steps throughout the process, I doubted myself. I said, why am I doing this? Because I'm not doing it for any kind of monetary reward. I'm just putting it out there. And the reason why I really got into it, to circle back, was just stepping out of my own comfort zone. I was comfortable. I have a comfortable job, a comfortable gig. I play my fantasy sports. I have a happy home life with my wife, and I decided I can keep on going at this pace, but from what I've read in other books is your biggest accomplishments come when you step out of your comfort zone. So that was also another reason why I did it, was just, screw it, let's try something totally out of left field and see where it takes me. And I don't know where it takes me. I don't know the next door that's coming. I don't know if I'm going to be working somewhere else or I'll be back at my normal 9 to 5 gig, come Monday. It could be anything. I'm open for anything. I'm not closing off any doors. I'm open-minded, and going back to work and the people I work with, I'll be totally happy if I write the book, I release the book, a couple people like it, a couple people don't like it, and I'm back at work and I have a book that I wrote,
What's the best piece of advice that I've given you so far in coaching?
That's a good question. I think the best piece of advice, you just give me confidence. I know that I'm carrying you with me. Even though that I don't see you every day, I'm not officially in your office every day talking to you, I have access to you. So I know if I ever get put in a corner or in a bind, I can simply shoot you a text, shoot you a call, you're always there for me, and you never worry. You never worry me, and you always seem like when we were talking about the Pete Rose situation, you said just write it from the heart. And I said, it sounded so simple, and I actually did it, but when you said it, it was like, all right, if David says so, let me just go ahead and do it, and I did it. And then when I was speaking to Pete's team, he loved everything I had to say.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Pete aligned with your vision, my vision, and it just connected through the universe, and it just happened seamlessly somehow.
Yeah, the universe loves simple, right? I look for easy, I look for simple. And the other funny thing is, if it wasn't right, at least it's you. I tell people all the time, I love when they're pitching to raise money. And people pitch to raise money, and they have this great personality. When they're telling me about the business, we're at one of those networking events, and they're flowing through their passion, and they're telling me about, I do robotics and this and this, and and when I'm not doing robotics, I like to go out and have a good time and meet a ton of people. And in my head, I'm like, this guy has a nice combination for a business. He went to MIT and he does robotics, but he also doesn't sit at his computer all night long. He likes, I work hard, I play hard. That guy can raise money. And so then he comes to me with the pitch deck, and he starts, it sounded like, I coalesce the vapors of human existence in order to create a viable and logical conclusion, and nothing about his personality, right? And I'm sitting there going, okay, you lost me.
What happened to that guy?
Right, because when I read the Pete Rose thing, it was like talking to you.
Yep.
Right, and people, they like to listen to my podcast or watch Elevate, because I'm me, and they like or they'll pick it up at an airport. Someone will say, hey, I recognize your voice from LinkedIn, because I'm always me.
Yeah, that's the best way to be. I totally agree with that. Sometimes I get in trouble myself because if I'm in a business meeting and I think it's going the wrong direction, even though I'm the smallest guy at the table, I will still speak my piece. If I offend somebody, it's on them.
Right, they have a need to be offended.
Yeah, I'm respectable. I don't curse at anybody. I don't yell at anybody. But if I
you didn't pick that up from Gary? You don't curse at anybody.
I speak my. When I'm in business meeting, I speak my piece. I tell them how I feel. If I think they're going the right direction, great idea, go for it. If I think it's going the wrong direction, I'll hold myself accountable to my decision, and I'll tell them how I feel.
Do you feel offended when I tell you you're going in the wrong direction? Because I am, I'm fast. Our calls are 10 to 15 minutes, but I'll tell you, no, don't do this.
I'm the type of person that I really don't get offended. I don't fight. I don't argue.
Yeah.
I listen, and
that's why your wife loves you.
Yeah, I try my best to listen. And then, a lot of times I might be the quiet guy in the room, just analyzing and seeing what's going on. In certain settings, I can talk. So I try to balance both of them, and I don't get offended by anything anybody says to me. You can say whatever you want to me. You can do whatever you want to me. I'll walk away. I'm not really the type of person that's has a big ego and has to defend myself. I'm not about that. I want to stay on the positive side of things. And if anybody ever said anything to me, I'm gonna take it in, listen to it, and adjust if I have to adjust to it. Like what you're saying about the book cover. I have it in the back of my mind. It's still in the front of my mind, but it's not my major focus.
But you're deciding today.
That's what I'll make
you do. You're deciding today.
Awesome.
Make your decision today. You got enough there.
Yeah,
Just do it.
Today to be today.
F it, man.
Yeah, so.
All right, last question, three-part question. It's about your book.
Okay.
I want to know what's the what of your book. Like, what is it?
Okay.
I want to know the why of your book.
Okay.
And then I want to know the how, which is, that great message of the book that you want people to walk away with. The what, the why, and the how.
Okay. The what of the book, it's about daily fantasy sports. Stories about my life through playing daily fantasy sports. And the
ups and downs.
Ups and downs. It's not all about highlights. It's tough defeats. relate them back to life. And if you can deal with defeats in fantasy, you'll be able to deal with defeat in life. And I chose Win Daily simply for the fact that I want people to have these small daily victories. You know, when I walk through life and I learn something, I'm happy I learned one thing today. If I can learn 2 things in a day, and I'll announce it, thank you for teaching me something today. You know, that was a good day. And you got to take these small victories in all different aspects, from defeats, from good things that happen and simple things that happen. Having a good conversation yesterday with the delivery guy I dropped off my food at work. We exchanged numbers, and he offered me a free training session.
Right, you never know where your gatekeepers are.
Yeah,
I had great stories. So that's your why.
Yeah.
Now, what's the how of what that book's going to teach you? So how do you win daily?
Win Daily, I have 4 specific chapters that aren't story-based. They're strictly strategy-based. Right. So I highlight how to win overall in fantasy, like the process, the mindset, the bankroll management, how to choose your games, how to choose your opponents, that whole strategy.
It cannot be carried over to life? Because all those things you just said seems to me like that carried my bankroll, my strat, like all of it's exactly what what games to play.
If you look at it like you just did on a deeper perspective, those specific chapters can help you in life.
Yeah.
Then I talk about how to win specifically in basketball, baseball, and football, the 3 major sports. And
it's different.
Yeah, it's different because you can't play one game the same as all the games because it's a total different strategy. And then as far as life goes, there's life lessons and everything. I try to provide quotes, I try to provide life lessons, and everything I try to do is to correlate this victory in fantasy to make it a victory in life. And I've witnessed, similar to you, you know, getting to the top of the mountain and looking down and then going down because you change your process, you know, and that's something that I've made that mistake several times, and I finally think I've gotten to the point now that the next time I make it to the top of the mountain, I'm planning to stay a little bit longer because it is a different type of mindset.
No. You're going to plateau and grow.
Yeah, plateau.
Remember, I'm your coach, bro. Plateau and grow. When there is no top of the mountain.
Yeah, you got to keep going.
Yeah, there's just the pursuit of your potential, which hopefully you reach your potential. There's no reason to be here.
Yeah.
So
I actually listened to like a radio interview, and they were talking. I think they were talking to Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
And they said, and I always was the individual when I was growing up. I want to retire at 40. I was like, I'm gonna retire at 40. I'm gonna retire at 40.
Yeah,
I make all this money to retire at 40.
Me too.
And then I heard an interview about his life, and he was talking, and they were questioning why he keeps coming back. And I think it was the last time he came back and tried coaching or the GM job with the Knicks. And once you're that competitive in life, and you step away from it, your life is gone.
Right.
Like, what are you really waking up for? So that's something I really realized. And I'm happy I realized it because if I had that same goal of retiring at 40, what is there to life at that point, you know?
Yeah. Let me give you
to stay consistent with some kind of resetting of these goals and keep going with it.
Yeah, there's no word. First of all, the pursuit is what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And then 2, there's no retirement, right? Yeah. Retirement is death.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
What the word that we talk about, and this is our last coaching lesson for today, is repurpose, right? I can repurpose at 40. I'm going to repurpose at 60 because my youngest son is going to go to college. So I know I'm going to repurpose, which is align my trajectory in a different potential.
Yeah.
Right? But right now I'm 51 as of a week ago, and my trajectory is set on a 10-year mark to hit 60, where when I was young like you know, I did, right? I retired in my 30s. I wanted to retire by 40. I wanted to be a millionaire by 30. All of those things, but now I'm on a repurpose, a repursuit, a different trajectory.
I really like that idea. Like, repurpose makes total sense to me. Like, retirement, everybody thinks they're chasing retirement, but like only the people who are on a different level like yourself, repurpose is it is the correct word. Because I even spoke to my grandfather after my father passed away, and he said, and we were talking about life and death, and he's obviously got some age on both of us, and he told me I should have never retired from my electrician job. He's like, now every day it's harder to get out of bed every single day because what am I getting up for? And that stupid thing that everybody's chasing, I want to retire, I want to stop working, but if you don't have this repurpose, like you said, what are you even waking up for? Right now, he told me, unfortunate news, he wakes up every day just to go for a drive.
Yeah,
you know, I don't want to get to that point, so I'd rather never retire and get to the point he's at. And I'd rather do what you're doing and repurpose, so I always have a clear vision and a process of what I want to do next. Whatever it is, it could be simple, it could be big, it could be, you know, like probably what you're focused on is going to be your kids and, you know, making sure they're making their next steps in life. And with my daughter who was just born a couple weeks ago, hopefully I'll be on the same playing field as you when I get to your age.
I like to repurpose at 60 with some grandkids, but not till then. You hear that, kids? Anyway, I really appreciate it. I love the what, why, and how to win daily. That's what I want for everyone, a consistent, persistent pursuit of their potential, which will create happiness in their life. And it's been a joy to coach you. It's been a joy to be your friend, and I can't wait to see the great success of that book.
Appreciate all your time, man. You've been the best, coach that I can ever ask for. And it's more of a friendship than anything else. I really feel like I have you in my corner, and having you in my corner is huge. It's you can't even put a price on what you're able to do for me. And it's people look at coaching like, all right, I'm going to get this one specific thing. Right. That's not what it's about. Or I'm going to turn my life around. The coach is not going to turn your life around. And
you are.
Yeah, it's on you. You have to hold yourself accountable, but they can guide you, and they can kind of hold your hand and say, look, just follow me. It's going to be an easy process. Not so much easy, but we can get there. As long as you don't give up on it, as long as you stay confident and you keep on going, it can happen for anybody. And that's what I realized with the book, that you can do anything. If you really put your mind to it, you can do anything. And you really helped with that.
I appreciate that. This is Dave Meltzer. Pursue your potential like Jason Mezrahi with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.